A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. What do you think of my fake smile? Is it believable? Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. Reason for the fake smile, as you can see, is that I'm welcoming you back to my office today, which I really didn't want to be doing. I had thought that I'd be back out in the mountains by now with a big heavy camera bag on, taking photos. Alas, my back still isn't better, still a bit sore. So I think I'm a few days off that, I've got no idea really, I'm not a medic, but I hope I'm a few days off that. And what I thought I'd do in the meantime is go through a list of things, photography things, that I've thought about, noticed, learned over the past 8 years or so, since photography went from being a hobby for me to more of like an obsession, really. And that works quite well because there are 8 things on this list, so 1 per year, quite clean. I couldn't think of any more, basically. So 8 years, 8 things. Thing number 1. So basically the first thing I noticed, and the most important thing on this list I think, is how important it was to go from just enjoying the results of good photos to learning to enjoy the process as well for getting those good photos. And it can be quite difficult sometimes to enjoy the process of standing in the rain for 12 hours, not getting any photos. It can be quite difficult to find joy in that, to relish the challenge. But if you can learn to do that, then you'll be much happier every time you're out and about with your camera than if you're just taking joy from getting good photos. Because in my experience, that doesn't happen all that often compared to the amount of time that you spend trying to get good photos. And if you can enjoy trying to get good photos, you're going to enjoy your photography an awful lot more. Sounds quite obvious, but like I said, it can be quite difficult when the rain is coming in sideways and you're soaked and you're cold and you're hungry and you're not getting any photos and all your camera gear is wet. And so yeah, learning to enjoy that as well as every time you get absolute bangers is important. And a quick tip for that, every time I feel miserable when I'm outside freezing cold, soaking with my camera, I think back to my worst ever job and think, would I prefer to be here, soaking wet in a field somewhere, not getting photos, or would I prefer to be there? And when I realise that I prefer to be freezing cold, soaking wet in a field, that makes me feel better about the process. That's my little strategy. If you've never had a bad job, that might be a struggle. The thing that I get asked about most, don't particularly know why, but I always get asked about it, is motivation in photography. How do I find the motivation to get out with my camera? And it's something I struggle to advise on because I can't really pass motivation to anyone else. You've either got it or you haven't. What I can say is spending time trying to find inspiration that will give you the motivation to go out with the camera is time so well spent, because it will inevitably improve your photography. So for me, it's books like this that give me motivation. This one's called Cabin Porn and it's full of pictures of cabins. Now I'm not particularly big on taking photos of cabins, so I don't know why this works for me, but every single time I open this book and start looking at photos, I'm inspired to get out with my camera and I immediately go and put my coat on, get my bag and go. Like I say, I don't know why, to be honest, because I don't take that many pictures of cabins, but this book is one of the things I turn to. And finding your own version of this book is crucial to giving you the fuel, as I say, to get out with your camera and giving yourself a chance to take photos. So take the time to find your version of this. There is a huge difference between image quality and photo quality. And when we start out in photography, we hear an awful lot about image quality because we're researching cameras, we're reading about sharpness and resolution and exposure and focus, all crucial aspects for photography, but we're not hearing much about photo quality, about things like story, emotion, how to pose questions, how to make a viewer curious. And image quality, all the details and technical aspects that make up image quality help photo quality, but they don't guarantee photo quality. And we also need to think about all the things that make up photo quality in order to end up with a good result. And thinking about those two things separately but equally is crucial, I've found, to making photos that have an impact on people. And if you're just thinking about things like sharpness and where to focus, you're probably going to end up with shallow images, as opposed to if you're thinking about images that are photos as well. If I been clear with that? I don't know. Photography rules, such as the rule of thirds, the rule of odds, things like leading lines and other compositional techniques, are important to consider. They're tools that you can use to make your photo better, but they shouldn't be considered rules, they should be considered suggestions. And if you think your photo benefits more from not following one of these rules or suggestions, then don't do it. They're there to help, not to hinder. And I think too often they do hinder when people stick to them strictly, thinking that they need to be obeyed constantly and in tandem with each other, rather than being used just as suggestions. And that's a big one for me. I feel quite passionately about that one. Yeah. Most of the time when you look out the window or at the weather forecast and conditions look awful, chances are if you go out with your camera in those conditions, they will remain awful. The thing is though, sometimes, and just sometimes, you end up with unbelievable conditions, which is a reminder that it can be worth chasing lost causes, particularly if you get into the mindset of point one, where you enjoy the process, not just the end result. 95% of the time, if you chase lost causes, you will end up with nothing. 5% of the time, you'll end up with something so spectacular and unexpected, it will make going out the other 95% of the time worth it. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of one time in particular when I was in Switzerland with Rich, Paperboyo, and we were in Zermatt. We needed to go back to the airport, but we had a couple of hours, so we got the train up the mountain in sheet fog, expected nothing, until 50 yards before the last station, we got off to the most amazing inversion, and it was just mind-blowing. And we wouldn't have had that experience if we just looked at the forecast, looked out the window, and hedged our bets. So chasing lost causes is so worth it, even though the majority of the time it's not. So this is a big one. So in the world of social media, it has never been easier to get pulled in to trying to impress other people with your photos, but that is a slippery slope that you do not want to be on, because before you know it, you're out creating photos for other people that even you don't enjoy. And it's not going to be long before you think, why am I even doing this? I'm creating photos that I don't like. That's not motivating. I'm going to stop altogether. The most important thing when creating photos is making sure you're doing so because you want those photos, not because other people want them, or not because of the likes that you might get or the attention you might get because other people like those photos. Crucially, you have to like them before anyone else can. Otherwise, you'll lose motivation and you'll stop taking photos, full stop. It needs to be for you and no one else. Number 7, I think there is a right way and a wrong way to buy a camera, and I spent the first few years of my photography journey down the wrong way, which basically was looking on the internet for sales of cameras and buying cameras that at that particular time were cheap. And since then, what I've done is developed a bit of a system to work out what camera works for me, and I call it BEST. And this is what it stands for. First off, budget. Clearly, you don't want to spend more money than you want to spend on a camera. Fairly self-explanatory. E stands for ergonomics, which is so undervalued in modern camera buying because most people, as I was just saying, buy their cameras online, because sadly most camera shops are closing because of people like me who buy their cameras online. And what that means is that ultimately people end up buying cameras that they've not even held yet. And this camera, like all cameras, is designed to be held. And if you end up with a camera that you can't reach the buttons of, then you're going to miss shots, because ultimately if you can't change the settings properly quickly when you need to, it's going to cost you. And it's amazing really when you think about it, just how many cameras are bought and sold based on specs, when really they're designed to be held. And this is one of the most crucial aspects of your relationship with your camera. And if you don't test that first, you're setting yourself up for a bit of a tricky purchase. So after you've got a short list of comfortable cameras, you then need to work out which system will be best for you. So which system has the lenses and the cameras that are going to benefit your photography most. For example, if you're a wildlife photographer and you love shooting really far off distant things, then chances are you're not going to be best off with a Leica M-mount camera, which doesn't have all that many telephoto zoom lenses. Got there in the end. And then after that, it's all about choosing the technology. So lots of camera manufacturers now will have camera bodies available in a few different guises. So if you take the Sony A7, for example, there's an A7S, which is like a low light monster and a video camera. You've got the A7, which is like a hybrid, and you've got the A7R, which is a high resolution one. Lumix do a similar thing with the S1 and the S1R and the S1H. Yeah, picking the right camera is what you need to do to pick the right camera. I need to get out of the house. If you find yourself in a position where you don't currently have gear acquisition syndrome, enjoy it. Because in my experience, that's a feeling that's fairly sparing and rare. And more often than not, I'm questioning whether I could be better off with another lens or a different camera. And it's enjoyable for a few hours every time I have that thought. And after that, it's exhausting. Reading reviews, differing opinions, getting swamped in specs. It becomes a horrible process. And if you're not currently going through that and you're happy with your gear setup, relish the prospect that you can instead spend that time researching bath bombs or something. Then you can also maybe enjoy the fact that your credit card has stopped smoking. It's quite a nice feeling. So in my experience, both personally and from speaking to lots of other photographers, it's rare that you don't want other stuff. And anytime that that's the case, enjoy just taking photos with whatever you've got, because it probably won't be long before you're wishing you had something else. And like I say, that can be exhausting. Anyway, that's the list of things that I've been thinking about recently about my photography journey, and I'm going to read some more of this to get myself up for 3 or 4 days' time, when hopefully I'll be able to go and take some more photos. Before I do, a big thank you to this week's video sponsor, Squarespace. So Squarespace is an amazing online platform to get yourself out there online if you want an online store or a portfolio, or you want to put together a newsletter. And I've been using it for years. I absolutely love it. Actually, speaking about newsletters, I'm really not in the habit of doing monthly newsletters, and I want to be. Some of my favorite ones have like 5 top things every month. Tim Ferriss, for example, does 5 things Fridays, or what's it called? Where it just has things he's read, videos he's seen, products he's found, all that sort of stuff. I might start putting together something like that, but let me know if there's anything specific you'd like me to do. In any case, it's powered by Squarespace. I absolutely love it. It's super easy. I'm not really technical. I've got no excuse not to do it more because it is so easy. So I'll start doing that, but do let me know what you'd like to see within those newsletters. And if you'd like to try Squarespace yourself, then go to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, then go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase on a website or an online store or a domain. It's an awesome service. Anyway, thank you for watching, and next time, hopefully, really, really hopefully, you'll be joining me out in the mountains, not in my office, which is a lovely little space, but I prefer being outdoors. I don't like being indoors. Going mad. I'll see you then.